So the way that I like to think about managing mental health is actually from these two kind of different, like related, but kind of separate categories. And one of them is this idea of relaxing, right? So that's anything you're doing to kind of get your mind off the stress or the anxiety or the depression, whatever it is. And then there's this other category called releasing, which is anything that you're doing to like get the feelings out of your body, right? And to like actually express them some way. And so art actually really fits into both of those categories really well, because when you are using it for relaxing, you have this opportunity to do things like coloring or drawing, right? Or scribbling with your favorite art materials, right? It's just anything that just feels good. And that's kind of like the whole intention. Um, right? So coloring and doing mandalas and those sorts of things are really good for that, because they're kind of giving you a place to focus and experiment with art materials, right? But it's kind of intended more to like get your mind off things, right? And just give you a way to kind of soothe yourself and relax. But then you can also use it in this other way where you are expressing it some way. So that might be doing things like art journaling, right? Where you're combining words and art. That might be doing something like drawing a picture of your feelings, or one of my favorite ways, which is to actually take a pencil and write down how I'm feeling and then paint a picture over the top of it. Right. So that's, and again, scribbling is really good for this because it's like physically discharging energy out of your body that is kind of related to the emotional state that you're in, right? Whether it's like stress or anxiety or something like that. So and those kind of are different ways of handling it, but you can think of it as like one way is just to calm yourself, and then one way is to like get the stuff out of your system and express it somehow.
Can it also help you feel a sense of community, even though things aren't physical right now? And all in person, you can still. Is there a way to make it feel like a community?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can make it feel like a community either through sharing what you've created with somebody, or I know some kids really like to do art dates through virtually, right? So they'll both log on to their Zoom meeting together and kind of do some coloring or some art together, even though they're in a different space. You can kind of do the same thing once the weather gets better. You can go outside to the park and make some art together and that sort of thing. And, it really depends on how you want to do it, if you're relaxing together or if you're gaining community by expressing yourself and then having a witness to that by sharing it. But absolutely, it can be a really great way to connect with people.
Is there anything else that you think is really important for teens to know about when it comes to starting an art practice for, your own mental wellness?
Okay, so the most important thing to remember when we're talking about using art to support your mental health is to take the pressure off yourself, because you're not doing it because you're trying to make a masterpiece, right? Or to make some beautiful thing that gets 100 million likes, right? That's not the intention when we're taking art, and using that practice to support yourself. Really what you're trying to do is take care of your nervous system, right? Which is that relaxing side, and to express yourself somehow, right? And so that's totally allowed to be ugly or messy or imperfect. And so if you're adding this extra pressure of it has to look beautiful, right? What if nobody likes it? What if I do it wrong, right? Then it's really not going to work. It's going to just make you miserable. It's going to add an extra layer of stress, right? So just let yourself off the hook, right? And try and have fun with it.
Perfect. I think that sounds fantastic. I want to get going now.
Yeah, do it. If you need examples of a really great artist or two to look at inspiration with this stuff, there are a couple. There's a woman named Sabrina Ward Harrison who is all about art for expressing yourself, and it's messy and it's funky, and she will totally, like, looking at her artwork will give you full permission to let yourself off the hook. So she's a really good one to look at for some inspiration. And there's another, for those of you teens that are on Instagram, there is another artist named Emily Lumen, and she goes by Quiet Noticing, and her art is very similar in the sense that, it's there to express what's inside, right? And she doesn't worry about it looking good, right? She doesn't worry about it being perfect, and the mess and the fun and the whimsy are all part of both of those women's way of expressing things. So you can kind of spy on them if you need a little bit of inspiration to get you started.
That's great. I'll have to look them up too.
Yeah, they're really fun.
Well, thank you, Joy. I really appreciate having these two events that you and I have done together. I think it's been really great.
Yeah, me too. I think everybody should use art to express themselves, even if they don't think that they're an artist. We've all got it in there somewhere. You just got to be brave.